Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host, Chantele Francis, here with Mel B to talk about episode 7, The Art of Manipulation for the Traitors Canada Season 2. Mel B, how are you?
I am good. I'm good. We just spoke for like a brief second, but I'm gonna let everybody know that there's a heads up that my daughter, my adorable 5-year-old daughter, is still not quite asleep yet, and her bedroom is right next to this room. So I'm gonna 85% chance that she will be interrupting us at some point to get a glass of water or maybe a snack, something like that to avoid bedtime. So bear with me if it happens.
No problem at all. We want her to join our conclave here.
Oh,
So, no
listen,
problem.
she
I get
wants
to
to
meet her in
join.
person.
Yep. That's half the problem actually, because she obviously knows I did the show myself, and she knows that I podcast about it and everything. And she'll talk about it every now and again. She'll be like, Mom, we should do Traitors together. Again, she's 5. She's not interested enough to actually sit and watch the show, but she's like, we should do it together. But this time we need to be faithful because faithful are good. And I think you lost because you were a traitor, and traitors are bad.
She might be onto something.
Not the worst, analogy, but yeah,
I've heard worse takes.
often.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, we start this episode at the breakfast room. We see Lauren, Nick, and Gail. They're first in. And Gail, she thinks it's Aaron. She thinks it's Aaron. When she was locked in the cage, she felt that, he was being a little suspicious, wasn't excited to see her.
He looked at the keys, Chantele. He looked at the keys.
Like, the thing is too, which is interesting, is that with the keys, like we'll talk about the keys more and more as we do this recap, but I would look at the keys as well to see if there was anything that's going to set one aside from another, to see if like there is like a method to the madness here. Like, I would be looking at the keys to see if there was a clue as to which one was correct. So I don't know if that's what he was doing, but I would be looking at those keys.
Absolutely. You want to analyze it. Like, even when you're going, like, they've picked the keys that they picked, because I think that was the thing, is like he looked at it after or something. But even if you pick the keys that you pick and then you look after, you're going to double and triple check everything. You want to see if there's any hints that like we got it right or we got it wrong. Like, you're just observing. He was just observing. But, these faithfuls.
Nick is on the Michael John bandwagon, saying that he's been doing some bad acting, and he is piping up a little bit. I feel that what's interesting is that he doesn't speak up enough. Like, he has these little moments when he's always like, I'm going to wait and save this till the round table. Or I'm going to save this.
Yeah.
I'm going to save this. I'm like, why don't you just start speaking up now to get people to trust you, instead of it just being like one time you start speaking up, you're expecting people to trust you and believe in you.
Well, it's almost like what's the problem? Is he afraid he's going to go home? Does he not? Is it the paranoia of the game that like, okay, I don't trust anybody, so like I'm afraid to say it in this setting because it's going to come back to a he said, she said later and somebody will accuse me of whatever. But like, that's the risk of the game. Like, if you go into play, period, that's what you're up against, right? So it's just tricky.
I think for him is that he doesn't have a lot of things to say. So if he doesn't have a lot of evidence or a lot of people, so when he finally has some evidence, he's like, okay, let me use this to say something at the round table, because we even see at the end of this episode, Curtin's like, maybe we should start listening to the people that are quiet. And so I think that he just isn't great at naming people, throwing out ideas.
To be fair, I do still have a theory. And again, they don't show them talking very often, and I have no reason to believe it, but I really, really think that Nick knows, without knowing, I do think he knows that his sister is a traitor. And I feel like maybe the knowledge of that, regardless of like confirmed or not, I think I think the internal, like in his head, he's like, okay, I don't think he knows how to help her.
I actually just figured out what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with what you're saying as well.
Yeah.
But I think we talked about it even we might have talked about the from beginning of the season, where when you're lying about something, you can't actually be your full self. And
Mhm.
that you become a two-dimensional person and you don't share stories. It's not as easy for you to connect with people. And
He's
I
lying about
think
the
the fact
sister.
that he's hiding the truth about him and Kira is
Mhm.
not allowing him to be his authentic self fully to the max.
Yeah.
Like he's been quite honest, but he can't share like, oh yeah, me and my sister when we were growing up and whatever, like we used to
Yeah.
do this. Like, oh, what's your sister? What's her name? Like, he can't talk about his life fully.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
that this now is make sense as to why he's not just a better social player.
Yeah, he's not bonding, and it's strange because everybody seems to like him, and I
Yeah.
think he's got what it takes to, like, manipulate everybody in there if you want. I mean, we see what his sister is capable of. There it has to run in the genes, right? But, like, I think that, maybe given that, plus I do think that he knows that she's a traitor and he's not really sure how to help her in the game. So it's likely that he's, like, afraid to say something in case he might, like, throw her under the bus by mistake. And then I think he's also struggling with the fact that, like, it seems that him and Michael John are good friends. And I think, he's obviously going to take Kara's word over everything. Her telling him Michael John needs to go, I think that leaves him a little conflicted as well because he doesn't want to go against her. And this is like his closest bond from what it looks like. So he seems to be in a sticky situation.
Yeah, I think we would see a different version of Nick if he was playing this game by himself, even as a faithful still.
Yeah.
I think that just keeping the secret is making him doesn't want to
Yeah.
mess it up. I think he also doesn't want to mess it up for Kira. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so like he's like kind of like what you're saying, he doesn't know how to help, but he doesn't want to mess it up as well. So
There's a lot on the line for him.
yeah.
Like he's in a really weird position.
I found it funny though that the three of them all trust Netta. Yeah, 100% trust Netta. Trust Netta.
I trust Netta. I'm not in the game, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe she's not a traitor. Like I'm watching her be queen traitor, and I'm still like, but is she a traitor? Like she's so good, and she's
I
so
don't even
fun
know
to
if
watch.
she's good anymore or if they're just
They're just
really, really bad. Because like not just like I mean, obviously I think she's playing fantastically. From the evidence that we're seeing is that like,
mhm.
nobody's catching on to her. But I'm wondering if there was some more savvy faithfuls, if she would be caught by now. Or you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
If
I'm not
Kevin
sure.
Martin was in this cast, Netta
There's
would
no
have
way.
been caught. Period.
100%.
Like,
100%. Well, I think what she would have done would be get rid of Michael John ASAP and recruit
mhm.
Kevin immediately.
Yeah.
Like that's what you'd have to kind of do because getting rid of him as a murder, it would look too suspicious. So
Mhm.
I think you need to just get him on your side as soon as possible.
Like, yeah, like that. He needs to be somebody that you hold close and try to throw under the bus on the down low.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I think she's doing well, but I agree. Like this, I mean, we broke a record. We talked a little bit about it earlier today in our interview with the first victim, with the murder victim. But these faithfuls have broke a record from what I can tell. This is in the Traitors series, English speaking,
Yeah.
the longest that it has ever gone without a traitor being banished.
So hold on. Let's just actually talk this through for a second.
Mhm.
So there are, I believe, 11 players left in the game, or players including the traders. So eight
Mhm.
faithfuls, three traders,
Yeah.
and they start off with 22 people or
Mhm.
24? 22.
22. Yeah.
So they have allowed 11 people to either be banished or murdered without them finding one.
7 roundtables. 7
That
roundtables.
is wild.
Complete madness. I think so spoiler alert, maybe not spoiler alert. It's not spoiling the actual show, but Traitors Australia season 2 has a reputation for being the world's dumbest faithfuls. I won't talk about the actual what happens, but their reputation is
I
that they
mean,
have been the worst.
I remember
faithful.
episode 6 and 7 of Australia. I was
Mhm.
like, I messaged my friend and who I talk about these shows with and play these games with, and I'm like, you gotta watch it. Get to episode 6 and 7. Like, I'm
It's
so mad at these people. Like, they're so like that's the
it's
difference though between
wild.
Australia and the Canadian version, season 2, is
This
that
is
I'm
more
not
fun.
that mad at the
Mhm.
faithfuls.
Yeah.
Like, I was furious though with
See,
the
I I think the difference there, I mean, like they did find one before the seventh roundtable. We'll just
yeah,
throw that out there. Like we hold the record for a reason. But I agree with you. It's because, and I don't necessarily think that it was the faithful that were making us angry so much as the
the
traitors
trade.
were not as likable.
Yeah,
Because there was some
100%.
traitors on that season that you're like, I need you to go home. Like even Michael John is like the most obvious traitor, we'll say, but he's not like infuriating me. Like
No, I'm not
he's like a
mad at
lovable character, He's
100%.
quirky.
I was totally going to bring up the same point is that I think the fact that the traders were winning, we
Mhm.
didn't like them and didn't like them getting their way and
Yeah.
being so aware with their manipulation and the things that they're doing and just being so annoying. It was
And the
so annoying.
confessionals were like they were I mean, I do take it as entertainment. So I enjoyed it. And some of the traders, I was like, oh, you're the worst, but like in a fun way. I was enjoying it. But like you read some, internet message boards and whatever after,
Yeah.
and you're looking down through some of the comments, and like they were able to rile up some like real anger in their audience, right? Like, and this one is really just like, oh my God, you guys are idiots, as opposed to like, oh my God, I hate you. Like,
Just like,
there's a
please
difference.
figure this out. He's not that smart. Don't let him be that cocky. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's, I totally agree.
Satisfying season overall, though. One of the most satisfying
The ending
endings,
was
in my opinion. Yeah.
satisfying,
So
definitely. So Cedric think that he is going to be targeted next, and I'm like, I get it, but like also, no, you're not. Like,
mm,
there's no
he's,
reason for Cedric to go out other
he's
than
too
being a
distracting.
distraction. But like, it's like at this point, he's not really being that much of a distraction.
At this point, they're all distractions. Like
Their
that,
theories
the
are
way,
distractions.
yeah, but the way that the round table goes, like there's one or two, maybe three people who are actually like on to Michael John, but nobody's on to Kara, nobody's on to Netta, and like they all go in circles. And I think it's to the point that like Michael John's name has been in so many people's mouths for so long that it just seems, and they've been so wrong for so long that it just seems that they're like, no, we've already looked at Michael John. We need to look at somebody new. So they keep looking for new theories when the right one has been there since like the second round table or the
Yeah, just
first
like go
round
back and take a
table.
look at what you've already thought about, maybe.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why did you think about those things? It's so interesting, just the psychology of how the faithfuls end up working or not working. Because I would think, maybe I wouldn't if I was in the game, but I would
Mhm.
think that anybody that was ever suggested by anybody would be somebody that I would be looking towards.
You know what I think a big issue this season is too? I've noticed that like their round, sorry, I can't sit still. I'm not a still sitter. Anyway. Their round tables, I notice they all seem to like have this, not everybody, but like the majority there, they've got like this consensus that, okay, who are we voting for? And I understand that's how the game goes. You pick somebody and you want to have a unanimous vote. You want to be on the right side of the vote. You want to get the traitor, whatever. But a lot of them are bending on who they believe the traitor is. Like they'll be like, okay, we'll get so and so out tonight, but you have to vote with me tomorrow or whatever. And I feel like that might be one of the huge mistakes that they're making because
Mm,
they're not getting a lot of stray votes. And a lot of other seasons, it's the stray votes that start to bring off light bulbs for people. So if they just keep
absolutely. I'm
having
putting other people in the hot seat, making them
exactly,
have to like say things that you're like, wait, that doesn't
you
make
want
any
to affect
sense.
them, yeah. And maybe that's the issue is that there's like, yeah, there's discussion, at the round table.
Yeah.
But they're just, there's none of these stray votes to see people's reactions.
I think actually you're onto something. I was thinking similar to you, but they should maybe diversify and spread out their votes instead of like going
Yeah.
all in on one person.
Mhm.
Um, like what if it is that it comes down to a tie? I think it did with Mary Jo and Kirkland. I believe it was a tie, but
Yeah.
and they had to fight for their lives. Granted, they were both faithfuls, but I think if like having more people fight for themselves, like you're saying,
Mhm.
would give more clues, will give more information instead of just going all in on somebody where the traders are able to just piggyback onto what you guys are saying. Like, okay, well,
They can
don't have to
just, yeah,
expose anything.
scoop
Okay.
it on. Yeah, good idea. Let's help bury this one. Like, if you look at last week, was it Melinda and Michael John? And I don't know, I think it was Lauren that was like, or Lori, somebody was like, we can't go like, if it's between these two, let it be between these two. And like specifically said that. And while I don't think that's the worst strategy, something's got to change with this crowd. So maybe like moving forward, we just won't do that anymore. Like maybe everybody just fires everywhere and see what we can hit,
Well, I played Mafia once. I wasn't very good because I didn't really understand all the different characters and how I just didn't really understand how to play and win. And so when we were doing all the voting rounds, I was just voting for who I thought was in the mafia.
Mhm.
And people, like, when people were analyzing like my game, like they didn't understand like why most of the time I was voting for the correct person, you know what I mean? But I wasn't jumping in on the group mentality of like where it looked like the group was going.
Mhm.
And like now I'm understanding that that's probably the wrong way to play it, because you want to vote for the correct person.
Mhm.
But I'm actually thinking it might be the right way to play it, because then you're not able to be manipulated and swayed by the mafia kind of gearing you towards one direction. Like, I think if
Mhm.
everybody votes the same way, that means that the traders have a lot more opportunity to sway you in the wrong direction. But if
Yeah.
everybody had their own idea as to who they are voting for and why, I think it would make the traders sweat a lot more, because they'd have to like be juggling more balls and more like deflection and more so I think maybe we're on to something, as
We
if you
solved
want to
it.
catch a trader, diversifying it so more people are going to have to defend
Yeah.
why yes or why no.
Yeah. We need to see that, right? Like that was another thing in my season. I can remember like the night that I got voted out, people had said to me ahead of time, like, or they weren't saying it ahead of time. So when I finally got wind that like my name had come up, I was so upset because I didn't have the time that I knew I needed to spin it around either. Like it goes, there's so many different ways to play this game. Because as I'm saying it too, I'm like, well, if you have more time to do it, then you can deflect a little better. But I don't know. I think there's so many ways to play the game, and every cast is so unique. But like when something just keeps going this wrong,
Yeah,
yeah, it's time
you
to figure it out.
change things up,
They're
please,
not setting the
please.
right records, people.
So Lori suggests to Nick that, hey, you should start talking to people before the roundtable, which is kind of what I was saying. It's like you can't build any social capital. You can't get people on your side if you're only letting them know at the roundtable. They already
Mhm.
probably have their ideas on how they want to vote or who they want to collectively vote for. And so saving it till then might save you, but I don't think it would allow people to want to vote with you. And so I
I
think she has the right strategy here.
I feel like the people who wait until roundtable, like regardless of what they actually are, that gives traitor vibes. Because if you're like waiting until the roundtable, it's almost like you want to see where the votes are going before you put in your 2 cents to try to sway them a certain way. Like even if you are faithful and you're just observing, if you're only bringing me details at the roundtable, you're no good to me during the day anyway, because we're not strategizing and we don't have any theories together, whatever. And it's super suspicious that you're literally just
Yeah, it's
waiting to
like,
see where the vote's going to go. Like it's not a good strategy.
Like, why do you need to tell everybody at the same time? Start talking to people and like
We're here
talk,
now.
but like talk to people, like get their ideas about the situation. Be like, okay, that makes sense. Like getting more information instead of just saving it for the round table. So, yeah, I agree with Lori. I think Nick needs to change up his strategy in general.
Yeah.
Pacman, Lauren, Cedric, Michael, John come in next. And Netta in her confessional, she's like, you know what though? At this point, I feel bad for the faithfuls. Like they're just so bad at this game. Like
I love it. I love hearing her say, I think they want to lose. Like, I think they want to lose. Kills me. I'm like, Netta, you're such good TV. Like, where have you been for 7 years? What is this?
I mean, maybe they just they want to just get out as many faithfuls as possible, and so they can get to the end and hopefully win the game.
And like, so that's a good. I kind of feel bad for Aaron because he had a good strategy. Like we have talked so many times about this game and about how that's the strategy. You figure out who the traitors are, you get close to the end, and then you get them out or whatever. But it's not the right cast to do that strategy with, obviously. But like, there's also like, you need to have an idea of who the actual traitors are. And then you also need, when you get to the end, to get them out, because honey, if you're one of 3 and the other 2 are traitors, like you're done. Like it doesn't matter at that point that that they're traitors, because they automatically win if you get to the end with them. Like it's
now,
just.
do you think that maybe they are? Oh shoot! Did I just lose my train of thought? I think I did. Wait, faithfuls. Oh yeah, maybe that they don't want to get out a traitor in fear of recruiting, because if someone gets recruited, then they kind of have to start at 0 again and have less information.
No, I think they just don't know what they're doing.
I'm giving them the benefit.
I think we're giving way too much credit. I think that they are, and every day that they're in there longer, that they don't have, a traitor on the radar, or that they get out a faithful, I think they scramble a little bit more. So I think that like they should have the skills needed to get traitors out. But I think that the deeper they go into the game, the crazier they're going. And they don't know what they're doing.
Trina is the last person into the breakfast room, and they all give a cheers to Mike, who was murdered by the traitors. But on his way out, we see him read his letter, and he thinks that Lori, Michael, John, and Cedric are the 3 traitors. Now you got one out of 3. Not bad.
Cedric and Lori's name keep popping up. Everybody's name is popping up this time, except for the actual traitors. So I take it back.
I mean, Lori, I can understand, just because she's starting to have some good theories and like she's being a little bit more vocal. So maybe you could seem as though because she's lasted and she's doing well, that she's gained some confidence. So I could see that maybe. But I've ruled out Cedric as a traitor. He's not a traitor. He's not a traitor. He's being left in the game because he's a distraction. Like go ahead.
I know. I just had a psychic thought, if you will, or whatever, like a
premonition,
guess, a guessinition, whatever you want to call it. What if they recruit Cedric at some point with the hopes to throw him under the bus, because his name comes up so often? But what if they do that, but it's also like too late, because he, like they just think that he's such a bad faithful or whatever, that he's like automatically deemed a faithful and he wins the game. Sorry.
Oh,
I know we're not doing predictions right now, but I was just like,
wait, how would he win the game? Because he would have to still get out all the traitors.
Yeah, I don't know when it would happen. This is me just being like, wouldn't it be nuts if at some point, like say there's one left, say like Netta's left or Kara's left, and they're like, okay, you have to blackmail someone because you're the only traitor. And then what if they're like, okay, I'm going to blackmail Cedric and throw him under the bus, because everybody thinks that, he's been in a lot of people's mouths or whatever. But then like, what if they do that and then Cedric survives and then the other traitor gets like eliminated and then Cedric wins?
I'm trying to think how this could actually happen. So the thing is, though, I believe that end up going to a prisoner's dilemma at some point, right? So if there's more than one faithful, Oh he's a
So
recruited traitor, you're saying.
yeah, so he would be like a blackmail traitor. So he wouldn't
A
be allowed,
recruited
if
traitor.
he
Okay.
says no, he dies. So like it would be down to like say 2, and then like they get him to throw him under the bus, but then he just doesn't get voted out or whatever. And then I was just thinking like he ends up being maybe the last traitor standing, or maybe it gets down to 2. But fun fact, I was on Bruno's podcast, Bruno from Big Brother 3 and 5. So I was on his podcast a couple of weeks ago when there was the hiatus with Dom. And while we're talking about it, we were trying to figure out about like the I can't remember what it was. The rules. I think we were making fun of Dom for getting booted out of the game. And anyway, I was like, Dom, I have my rules here. So anyway, I found my rules for the game. The next day I looked it up because the prisoner's dilemma is how I thought it would end as well, or the traitor's dilemma. But in the Canadian rules, and now maybe it was just for season 1, but it specifically says in the Canadian rules that if 2 or more traitors are at the end, like, and the traitors have won the game,
they have
they
to split
split.
it. They have to split.
That sucked. Yeah, they have to split. Like it's no choice. It's like, so say if like Mike and Kuzi made it to the end with Gerline and she lost, they won, there wouldn't be a traitor's dilemma as per the rules that we were given for season 1.
Now, I think that might have been the case with any season where it was down to 2. I'm wondering if the prisoner's dilemma comes into play when 3 traitors are at the end.
In Canada's first season, it wasn't. It was any traitors at the end. Because I've read it a couple of times because I was
but there was only 1 at the end, right? I'm just saying, like, if there were 3.
Oh, yeah. But in the rules is what I mean. Like the actual rules have it in, because we get the rules of the game before we play. And the actual rules of the game have in what happens if there are traitors, multiple traitors. So like say all 3 traitors make it to the end, they split the pot. Yeah. Okay. But I'm hoping that that's been changed. Because it's cool, but it's boring. The dilemma is
I mean, I don't know if they could change it for this season if they'd given out the rules in the beginning.
Well, that's what I mean is like they may have already changed it. Right. Like that was for my season. So the rules for my season were like you had to share. But it was just interesting because I had forgotten that completely. Like that wasn't in my brain. It was like just play the game. But I reread them like last week and I was reading through and I was like, oh, this is interesting.
But in all honesty, though, I mean, you're saying all traitors, so if all 3 were there, they would also split. I feel like I believe that the traitors would split no matter what until we had 3 traitors at the end. And I was like, oh, this is a new twist.
It wasn't. Yeah. And it wasn't until I think we saw a situation like that play out that I even realized that would be an option.
Right.
Like, I think it was always like, okay, if there's more than 1 traitor, because we hadn't seen that play out either, more than 1. But yeah, apparently in the Canadian rules for season 1, it was that you had to split the pot. If traitors won, all traitors had to split. Whoever was left, not all traitors who had been in the game, but
yeah,
whatever traitors were left would split. But I'm really hoping that since that other situation happened, because that was different than ours, and I think it aired after ours. So I'm hoping that maybe the rules have since tweaked a little bit.
I am definitely curious. Get our hands on that rule book.
I know. I'm like, who can we call?
So Lauren, Netta, Kira, Trana, Gail are all talking, saying about how they need to work together. And I just was like, you have Kira and Netta in this conversation about having to work together. And I actually felt bad because Lori kind of came out and they just kind of, sorry, not now, Lori, you stay out of here.
That is one thing that irks me. It never happened to me, but probably because I wasn't there long enough. Because I've seen it happen in some other renditions and it makes me so upset. I'm like, stop shooing people away. Like, yes, I don't know. It makes me feel bad because I know that like you're having a private conversation or whatever, but like it also makes you look suspicious. Like if I walk into a room and somebody's like, oh, not right now. Like we're just like having a little private chat. I'd be like, traitor. Like, I don't know. I don't like it.
I would think it's because they don't trust me. And so I would then go and try to build trust with that person. So
I would try to get them out.
Okay, well, out of those people, who would you try to get out then? Lauren, Netta, Kira, Trana, Gail.
Trana, Netta, Kira. Say that again.
Lauren, Gail.
Lauren and Gail. I don't know. All of them, I guess. Whoever heard their name the most, I'd like pull at that thread and be like, listen, I saw them talking about this, and this is what it seemed like, and I would probably spread a rumor because that would make me feel bad. I'm like, you don't make me feel bad. I'm gonna go against you
But
now.
now I agree. It's like making people feel bad and making people feel like on the outs. Absolutely. We saw on the Traitors US how Peter had his group and people felt excluded from it, and it didn't work to his favor of being likable with everybody. But now you also don't necessarily want all the information to get out there because there's people that would try to steer things in a different way because you don't know who the traitors are. So I can understand why you want to keep information with the people that you trust in order for you to be able to hopefully get out a traitor. So
It's true.
get it. It sucks, but I do think it's part of the game to kind of curate who you're giving information to.
Yeah. And to be honest, like the days aren't even really long enough to be like, change the conversation, invite that person in. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're like, oh, we'll chat about this later, because that could be your last 10 minutes to talk. And then they might be like, okay, lunchtime, like so it makes sense. But at the same time,
be nicer, more social game.
Feeling good about going to the end with you if you're not sharing your thoughts with me,
But
it kind of shows people's hands.
Her, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it shows people's hands. Like I feel like if I was in the opposite situation, like say I was Trina or Lauren and having that conversation and Lori walked over, I don't think I would be like, oh, Lori, not right now. We're in the middle of speaking. Like this is private. I think I'd be like, oh, Lori, so what are your thoughts on, and just throw out I'd fake the conversation, like make something else up just to make her feel included. Cause I think including people is what's going to get you out,
I get it. But I think, like you said, it's part of it is the time crunch of like, I need to get this conversation in before somebody joins. We saw how difficult it was for the traitors to be able to have like a quick little conversation to figure out who they were going to poison or give the handshake to. And so I think that they're just trying to like utilize this moment as quickly as possible. 1 second, Lori, let me just finish this conversation and then, allow people to come in. So,
and there is a state of anxiety too. Like when you're playing, there is like this, everything is always so fast. Like the days, they're long, but they fly. So like, even at the round table, I get anxiety now when I watch round tables. And the second I see Corinne start to like do her circle, I'm like, no, get it out. See what you're saying? She's coming, right?
Yeah, she's coming.
And that's the whole day. It's like you're always trying to do something and you can't quite catch up because people are always like cutting you and being like, no, you need to stop. Like you have to do this now. So that could be part of it.
So Trina and Gail think that Aaron is the head of the snake here. And so if they get rid of Aaron, like the other traitors, like if Michael John's a traitor or if Cedric or if Lori, like they will just flounder if they get the head. So they're giving a lot of power and props to Aaron here in this game.
He's the mastermind. He's the world's best traitor, best there ever was. He's strategic and quiet, and he's leading them all to slaughter. And
then we see Cedric though saying like, oh, I think that Netta is kind of suspicious. She's very quiet. She doesn't really say that much. You're nodding.
She's not emotional. He's been onto her since the beginning. He's not like outright throwing her under the bus, but he's been eyeing her, like he's definitely got some sort of a sense. And I don't know if it's because maybe he knows a bit more of her reputation than what the others do. Cause like his son won Big Brother. Now I don't know how far back Cedric decided to go and deep dive after Tashawn won. He still says that his son's not his favorite from season 9.
Who's his favorite from season 9?
I can't remember who he said. When I met him through Tina, and I remember he was like, it's my favorite Big Brother Canada player from season 9, right? And like the joke being that his son was on that season. But yeah, like I don't know if he did a deep dive or if he just knows of her through the Big Brother community, maybe, but he's definitely got his finger on the pulse with Netta.
Well, he didn't like her, remember, erasing the chalk, which I thought was great, but he was just like, nah. He doesn't trust her or believe her.
Because it was his name at the end.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So Aaron now needs to try to convince Trana, wait, who did Aaron want her to convince Trana to go for? Like, I know he's worried here, but I didn't write down who he's. Oh, I'm lying. Cedric or Lori, or Lori. I wrote.
Right. And so he like came out with his full plan to Trina, and he's like, this is what I've been trying to do. I'm trying to get closer to the traitors. This is who I believe the traitors are. I just haven't been saying it because I want to stay on their good side. I don't want them to murder me and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I love when Trina was like, I believe every word you have said to me, but she thinks that they're all traitors, and now they're turning on each other because they're backed into a corner, which is just delicious.
She said back into a corner. They're backed into a corner. They're like 3 times this episode. I'm like, no, actually, they're trying to toss a traitor under the bus in front of you for you guys to just run over, and you're just like, like, let's turn around.
Yeah.
Go around.
Oh, watch out, Michael John's there again. Better go around him. It's gold. It's such good TV.
We get to the challenge, and I thought this challenge was really fun. They're going to be divided into 3 different groups. In each group, there's going to be observer, an artist, and then somebody who's going to find the original painting. So you did have to switch roles in the group. You couldn't be the same, do the same role more than once. Which role would you want to do? Like, what would be your order of which role you would want to be?
Oh my God. I don't know. Cause I feel like I'm good at none of these things, but I also feel like I don't know. Cause I'm not great. I am great with attention to detail, like in weird aspects, like attention to like little details that would stand out that like most people wouldn't notice, but I'm not great for like the obvious things. So I think I would forget a lot. Like I'm not great to like describe it to somebody after. So I don't know if I would be great at that, but I'm also terrible with a paintbrush. So maybe hunting. I think I would be good for hunting the picture, like finding the picture based on like the drawing. I think that would be my strong suit. But if it's drawn wrong, it doesn't matter. So yeah.
For me, I mean, I'm not a great artist, but I've been taught how to draw, so I'm not like, I wouldn't say I have the gift, but I'm not the worst. I think that I would probably be able to give good descriptions, because I think the key to that one would be finding things that are easy to describe that will stand out specifically. So I think Netta used that strategy, making sure that the necklaces was very clear with the different jewels that were on it and the colors of them, like things that would stand out that could be very different from picture to picture. So I think that I would be able to find really good things to make it obvious to the person selecting the paint
to describe.
Yeah. So I think that would be my strongest suit. I think that maybe my next strongest would be finding the painting, because I feel like I can see what they're trying to do or something. Like I think I'd be able to figure out, being like, I think that they meant this. And I think painting would probably be my least strong strength, because you know, I'm not the best painter, but they're also probably giving terrible descriptions. So
well, how many people put the mask on like the eyes? They're like a mask on the head, a gold mask, and everybody drew like a blindfold type mask.
Yes.
And I thought, and then there was an actual picture that had a blindfold type mask. I thought that was really cool.
So they probably were just like, okay, what kind of picture should we put in here to make it less obvious for the different clues that would be given, likely.
When they did the mask, like, you know, the mask was on top, it was like a little theater mask or whatever. It was like a circle on top of the head. And then a bunch of people drew like a blindfold type mask, but then there was actual like the same woman with the blindfold mask. And my mind was like, what psychologist like thought this up and thought this is what people are going to
100%,
draw, you know, like I
they
just
did,
thought that
though,
was genius.
for sure.
Yeah. So
well,
really
that's
cool.
why like, a lot of the pictures had like similarities in it. So even for one of the rounds, there was like a cat with like you know, a collar or whatever, and I thought that they had it right, and then I realized like, oh no, they didn't have those flowers in the back of the ones that they were choosing, but it was a very similar picture if I remember correctly.
It's a good game. It looked fun.
definitely looked
This
fun.
is one that I think Michael would have enjoyed, or Mike. Mike would have enjoyed this one. I think it wouldn't have been too strenuous. He would have liked this one.
I didn't ask. I should have asked that. Like, would you have
Yeah.
liked to play that one? Hi,
Yeah.
Clinton. So Clinton says, hi. Their painting skills were not very good. Painful to watch. Maybe they'll be on eBay. Joking. I'm an artist. um, yes, I don't. I mean, maybe they'll sell them on eBay.
Lori wants it. Lori wants errands to like put up in her house, and I think that they should send it to her. I think what are you gonna do with the paintings, guys? Don't throw them in the garbage. Send them to the cast.
I did
That's a
ask
good
Aaron
memory.
about this.
Yeah.
So we'll
Did they
get
send
it.
it to him?
Tune in and when I drop the episode of the elimination
I'll be looking
to see
forward
what
to it.
everybody says.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was nothing like people were pretty bad at all sides of this. We learned that Kira has aphantasia, which is one of these. I don't know if it's a disorder or things that happen to people that I think is wild because I can't imagine, funny enough, not being able to imagine.
It's crazy. My first thought went right to work. So, like, I'm a realtor. So, as you can imagine, when I go into people's houses with, say, a buyer, I have to be like, well, imagine this space, but like put your things here, or if we're looking at a renovation, I have to be talking to people about like what it would be like if we take this wall down and if you add this thing over here. And I can't imagine how much harder that would be for somebody like Kira who just is incapable of picturing that. I never heard of it.
Well, I have a friend. I do hypnotherapy, and so she was a client for like a practice client when I was in school, and she says that she has this to a certain extent, but she's still able to see like color and stuff like that. So I'm wondering what like extent Kira has it because like sometimes I can't see things perfectly clearly, but like I can still know what something looks like, I'm curious as to does she have like memory recall? I have another friend, this is also wild, that can't recognize faces. And I forget what that disorder, if it's a disorder, is called. And so she will meet somebody and then won't remember that she's met them because she doesn't remember their face. Anyways, I'm wondering if it's like that as well. Like, does she re-meet people and isn't able to remember that like she met them before, or like what about like thinking about what she's has in her wardrobe, like to be like, well, what clothes should I pack for this trip? Like,
How do you put an
don't.
outfit together? Yeah.
I would love to know more about that because I think it's absolutely fascinating.
I want to know what brought her to get diagnosed, because the funny thing about these things is that you don't know that that you don't have something until you have it. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times people with ADHD, for example, will, they might realize, oh, okay, not everybody does this. Like this isn't normal for everybody or whatever. And then maybe they'll take some medication and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is what regular people experience, quote unquote regular. But like I found that myself when I even because I have ADHD, and when I started taking my medication, I was able to focus. Now, listen, she's not magic, but when I was able to focus better and like get things done, I was just kind of like, is this how the majority of my friends live, like just regularly? Because before you're just always living with something, so you don't really know that there's anything off. So my thought is like, how did she come to know that this was something she even had to get a diagnosis? And then how do you get that diagnosis? It's so tricky.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're like, picture a red ball, and she's like, I don't know how to do that. How do you
What
do
do you
that?
mean?
But okay, along this line, these another thing that fascinates me that I learned that there are people, and I don't know if she would be included in this, that don't have an inner monologue.
I've heard that.
Which I also think is wild as can be. And they
Madness.
think in movies, when you hear people talking to themselves, that it's just like a device to use for storytelling, but like not realizing that actually people have inner monologues. And that I also think is wild as can be, because I'm like,
that's one that blew my mind. I've had have on the regular actually legitimate arguments with myself in my head. Like, and I wish that was a lie, but like I've been on this, trying to get up at 5 a.m. every morning path to make sure that I can just have myself set up properly for my days. They go easier. But let me tell you, at 5 a.m., when that alarm clock goes off, there are two versions of me, both in my head, both silent, yelling at each other. So, like, how do you not have one? You know what I mean? Like, when I found that out, my mind was blown. Like, I just assumed that's what brains were, that every single person had their little voice that spoke to them in their head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
This is actually a topic that I really love. So
So
me
good.
and my best friend, we some of our imagining things are very similar. So I'm going to ask you, out of
Mhm.
curiosity, if you're thinking of like a calendar or a date or what you were doing last fall or last summer, like how do you visualize something, or what does it look like when you're trying to look at different dates and time in general? If it looks like anything.
I don't think it, well, like, do you mean like if you're asking me about a specific scenario?
Sure.
Like say, like for
Say,
example,
okay, I'll give you an example for you to look at. So, on your daughter's last birthday, what happened on that particular day?
okay, yeah, yeah. Like I'm like automatically thinking back and being like, oh, was it this one? I'm picturing different birthdays.
Okay, and then
I'm trying to
and are
remember
you
which one it
picturing the
was.
birthday on like a calendar, or like how do you relate it to the actual date?
Like physically in my house. Like I'm
Okay.
picturing like I was literally just thinking like, is that the year we got her a bike? And I'm picturing like the living room. Like I might have been the wrong birthday, but I pictured like, the birthday decorations in my
And
living room.
how can you tell
Yeah.
what exact day it was?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, interesting.
I
So,
don't know.
like, I would just think in my head or whatever about like the same kind of scenarios, like okay, like the birthday, blah blah blah, but it would be placed on a calendar, and so like, so
What?
so I'll see like the little vignettes of like I'll like be flipping, like going kind of around and like going back different years, and so like I'll see like that's what I'm saying. It's wild, right? So if I'm looking
Brains
at
are so
like
cool.
if I'm looking at right now my week, so like here would be Monday, here would be Tuesday, here would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, kind of going linearly like this. But then when I have the year, it goes in a full kind of square. So like if say it was in spring, I'd be looking over here at spring, okay, like March, and then like the day in March, and then I'd see like the little scenario on like that day.
That is wild.
It is wild.
You're living, I mean, we're all living in 3D, but like your brain is 3D.
I definitely am able to construct things 3D wise. Like I can see,
Yeah.
like I can put together a puzzle that's two dimensional. I can
Mhm.
understand how it can come together in a 3D. That is something I
That's
can do.
very,
Um,
very
but
cool.
it's just wild though. I just didn't know that that was something that other people can't or don't do.
Yeah, right. And I mean, so that could be something that is like extraordinary that you can do it, or it could be like super weird that I can't. Like it's one of those things, and neither of us would have known that the other person like would or wouldn't be able to do that because it's not our normal. Like our normal is in our brains, and that's we just assume that that's what everything is, right? It's like people who are colorblind and then they realize that they're colorblind. You know what I
Well,
mean? Or they
well,
get like
Trana
their
even
glasses.
asked Aaron if he was colorblind because
Colorblind. He was saying
somebody said
emerald.
ruby and
Yeah.
like it was emerald or it was a greenish color,
And
and
he was
so
like, one of us is right. I thought that was great.
it's so
But
good.
yeah, like it's what like, you see lots of videos of people, who put on the colorblind glasses that helps you see color. And their reaction when it happens, it's like, oh my God, because this is what I've always known. And now my world has changed. Like you're broadening this thing I didn't know existed, right? So it's really, really interesting.
Well, everybody has such a unique experience, and you just expect that most people will see things in the same way that you do.
Yeah.
You just would never expect people to not, right? Like you're just like, oh wait, I just didn't think that this was something that varied.
Yeah.
another friend I have doesn't have the sense of smell or taste. And so, and this is way before COVID. So, like, she's never been able to actually taste anything. And we used to bartend together. She used to always be like, "Can you smell me to make sure I don't have BO?" Because she can't smell anything.
Hilarious.
And so, like, everything to her, like, she loves cooking and stuff like that. But how she just, like, makes flavors come together is like where, you know, if it feels a little bit tart here, or like how it feels in her palate. She definitely uses different things to construct food flavor profiles, and she's
Yeah.
actually a very good cook, but she doesn't know how anything actually tastes together, which is also wild.
That's my nightmare and dream all rolled into one.
No, she still likes food a lot.
Like, yeah, okay. Well, then it would just be my nightmare because I'm like, you know, I've got issues. Like, I've got an obsession with food. So, like, but it's because I love the taste of everything. So, like, I will overeat until the cows come home. But if I couldn't taste, you know, I would be like, okay, great. I'm not going to just stuff my face with all this bad stuff from my body.
Yeah, it's
But
like,
at
what's
the
the
same
point?
time, it's like, is there a point to life if I can't taste food? Because
Absolutely.
that's my world.
I love food too, so I would not want that that what would it be called? Anyways.
Nightmare?
I wouldn't want that nightmare. Clinton says having the skills of observation is really handy in reality shows. If you notice the small details, it could either flip the game on its head or send you home.
100%.
Yes, definitely. And I think that would have won anybody the game. They didn't need to make a replica of these paintings. They
Mhm.
just need to have certain key pieces that would be able to differentiate them from other paintings in the game. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so yeah, do you want to talk about anything that happened other than the fact that Netta's team, so that was Netta, Cedric, Lauren, and Nick, they were the only teams that were able to get 2 out of their 3 paintings. Everybody else didn't get any of their paintings
Wild.
correct, which means that they're all going to get a shield as well. So Cedric and Nick and Lauren are all safe. Obviously, Netta doesn't need the shield, but
Yeah.
they're all safe here.
I thought it was wild after when they're in the conclave talking about Nick. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, it's giving that his days are numbered. We'll see what happens. I'm really disappointed that it hasn't come out yet that they're siblings. Like, I just let a big scandal happen. Like, I want
But
the
it would kind of
scandal.
ruin both their games.
Yeah, but you know, it's interesting for us.
Well, and I think also if anybody found out about that, like say Netta knew about that, she'd be like, "Oh, you have 2 people in here working for you.
Nick's
Like,
going home.
you got one of you guys are going home for sure." Like, I
Mhm.
think it would actually kill their game at this point. They
Oh
can't let it
yeah.
out.
Yeah, but like such good TV, you know? Like, was it UK season 1
I think so,
where there
yeah.
was like a couple and it
Mhm.
came out in the friggin' best way? Like, I'll never forget when that came out because my jaw hit the floor. And I was like, this is such a good show. Right? Like, such a good show. So I really want them to get caught from an entertainment standpoint, you know?
Right,
In the
right, right.
game, no, they would both be screwed. But like on my couch, yeah, someone needs to let that slip.
I wonder why production hasn't been throwing them under the bus a little bit more. We had that one clue in that that mind game where things were blowing up, where you had to like guess whether the facts were facts or not.
Yeah.
And Kira was the one that said, "No, that's right, that's correct," and that never came back to haunt her.
I think production just doesn't need to this season. Like, I think they're
That's
like,
true.
who cares if they're siblings? Because look at all this other drama. Like, it's just one of those seasons where there's so much that the cast is giving that they don't really need to fan any flames. Like, the fire is roaring on its own. So that could be it.
Now I can't remember who it was. I said Gail thinks that Michael, John, and Kevin are traitors, and I'm wondering if it's because they thought that they were bad at the. I think it was that they were really bad at this challenge. But what can you help me understand? Maybe what benefit it would be for the traitors to be throwing these missions? They want to win money.
Literally none. There is no benefit. It's so stupid. They've been talking about it all season. They're like, you're a traitor because you're throwing the mission. I'm like, you watched The Mole before coming on the Traitors. They're different shows.
They're
Like,
not
this is not,
infiltrating these missions. They
yeah,
want the
like,
money.
they don't get more money if you don't get money in the pot. Like, Michael John aside from that one thing that he made, but like realistically, the traitor wants to win the money too. The pot is the same for everybody. They don't get more if you mess up. Like, it's literally the same for everyone. Everybody wants to be putting money in there, but for some reason, and you know what? It comes down to, like, Lauren said it earlier in the game. She's like, I think that the traitors are going to be all like, or the faithful are all kind. Like, the faithful are all going to be kind-hearted and stuff. And I'm thinking, like, did you forget that your shoulder could have easily been tapped? Like, this is not a game of, good versus evil. It's traitor versus faithful. It's a role you're given to play. Your personality doesn't determine your role in the game.
Right.
So, like, it's almost like when you're in it, your mind just thinks traitor bad. Therefore, the personality traits of the traitor must also be bad. Therefore, they're going to sabotage because they're going to create all this chaos and mess and whatever. But it's just not a good
There's
theory.
0 point for a traitor to be throwing missions.
Yeah.
Unless it's kind of with the Trojan horse one, where it would look suspect if the traitors were offering up the correct answers here, like, all the time, especially since it didn't seem to be on the same wavelength as the faithfuls. So
there would need to be a
I get it.
strategic reason. Yeah, like, even with this one, if there was a strategy behind it because of the shield, but they weren't even told that they were going to get the shield until it was over. So it still wouldn't make sense for them to throw the game. It's just,
but if you threw the game anyways, you didn't get the shield, right? You had to actually do well. So,
well, if they were like, I should say, like, if they threw the game, so say somebody on the team was a traitor and they wanted to get somebody else on their team out, then you would, like,
so that they don't get a shield. Okay.
But again, they didn't know that they were even going to get the shield until it was over. So, like, it doesn't make sense to throw for a traitor unless it's a specific game, like you said, where you kind of need to so you don't get caught. Like, not getting caught is the only reason a traitor would throw the game. It came up last season with May. Like, Rick was, like, convinced that May was sabotaging to lose the game, and she was saying the same thing. She's like, why would I, even if I was, like, why would I do that? Like, it doesn't make sense.
And also, one of the key factors to keeping people has been, they're helping us win these missions, and a lot of people are having buyer's remorse with getting rid of Enoch because he was really helpful with these missions, and they have not been doing so well since he's been gone, and so, especially with these physical ones. So yeah, the logic isn't logicking here.
They're just throwing things at walls.
The logic between Kevin and Laura, I mean, it's actually getting to be comical because they both think they're both traitors, and they're both fine with it, and they both want to know that the other person know that they're both fine with the other person being a traitor. Just keep me safe. I'm gonna do what you want to do. Keep me safe. And neither of them are traitors. It's hilarious.
They're my favorite right now. They're my favorite thing about the show. For so like today's episode, I know when we do MVP, like, they're my collected.
I'll agree with that. With them being the MVPs,
it's so good because, and they're so upfront, but they're also getting so aggravated with each other about it. And they, like, I think they're gonna blow up. Like, I think next, if the tension started to rise a little bit, now they're starting to get paranoid. And they both, like, want to work together. They both think the other is a traitor. They both want to be recruited if the other is a traitor. But they're also getting paranoid and afraid that the other person is going to come for them. So, like, I think we're going to have a showdown for Kevin and Lauren, and it's going to be beautiful.
Well, or they'll finally get a traitor, and then it kind of will end up exonerating both of them. You know what I mean?
They get a traitor, and then they're both pissed off that the other one didn't recruit them because they still are convinced that they're traitors. You know what I mean?
Or what could happen? Maybe one of the, I don't think so, but what if one of them got recruited and then, like, start acting differently, or I don't know. We find like,
it's just it's adding like an element to the show. I think it's adding the element that I would have liked to see with the sibling twist. Right? It's
Right.
adding this like really fun out of nowhere. Why would they think that kind of element? And it's just really entertaining. They're my favorite part of the show yesterday.
We see Kevin working with Lori as well. I do like that duo also.
Mhm.
Netta and Kira have a quick conversation, and Netta's basically kind of done with Michael John. I don't think we
Mhm.
saw why,
It
like, they're done.
feels like something went down that we probably haven't seen because
Yes.
at the round table, we didn't see Michael John bring up Netta's name at all. And she said a couple of times in confessional, he keeps saying our name. Like,
Yes.
so I think he likely threw her under the bus.
Well, I mean, we do find out after the round table, I believe, that he was saying to Pac-Man both of their
Mhm.
names. So, oh yeah, we saw it in the conclave, right? We
Right.
do get that gets solved, but at this
Mhm.
point,
It's
we
not
haven't seen
solved.
anything, right? Okay, yeah, we haven't
Mhm.
seen
Yeah.
anything.
But
But
I
Michael,
still don't think that it's solved. Like, I think that they're all like, they were at each other at the round table and then they're in the conclave. That's all they can do. They have to get along in the conclave. It has to be, well, not always, but like you still have to collectively get somebody's name on that paper. And if I'm trying to throw you under the bus at the conclave and you survive, or at the round table and you survive, then it's gonna be like, oh hey. So like, just kidding. Like, what else are you gonna do?
well, Michael John is planning on firing back at Kira if she comes for him at the round table. But yeah, Netta wants Michael John gone and have the ability to recruit someone else, which I'm curious as to who she would recruit. That would be exciting to see. Is it still Gail or is it somebody else now?
I think Gail knows that Ned is a traitor. She keeps saying no. Like she said earlier that she doesn't think so. But part of me wonders if they had some kind of a pact in the helicopter. So
Probably. Isabel says, "Are these faithfuls worse than Andy?" And his name was. It wasn't Quinn,
it
but
wasn't Quinn. It was he came up on my
Quinton.
Instagram. Quinton.
Quinton? Yeah.
Quinton. Yeah.
Um,
It's
yes.
it's tricky. It's tricky. Andy and Quinton got to the finale when there should have been one more traitor, and they were like, nah, there's no more. So that's a bit trickier. I
Yeah.
think they were a little misted by Sari.
Yes, should have been obvious to them that they needed to get another
Get one
person
more.
out,
Yeah.
especially when Ari kind of gave it to them on a silver platter, basically being like,
Parting gift.
yeah. And so
Essentially.
I think that they weren't game savvy. And like at this point in the game, I think that these faithfuls are worse, but I will see if we get to a similar scenario at the end of the game and
Mhm.
see if they will still be snowed by Kira, Michael John, and Netta.
They're kind of on par for Girline finale season 1 at this point. Just that finale. And to her credit, because she did good. She got really far, but Mike was pretty well. He serried her in that moment, I think. Anyway, like, but yeah, they're getting there.
They're getting well.
They're the worst.
As faithfuls up until this point, episode 7,
They're technically
they
the
are
worst.
definitely would say the worst and the worst track record.
Yeah, as a whole. It's
Yes.
tricky because when you get to the Faithfuls season 1 US weren't bad. The final Faithfuls were bad. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, the
Mhm.
Faithfuls as a group were not bad in season 1. It was the people at the finale just weren't savvy. This one as a group, they're bad. But we could get to the finale and find that like the Faithfuls at the end are like amazing and maybe they win, So we're kind of like tarring them all with the same brush in a sense that we're saying like right now as a group they suck. There might be a couple of great ones in the group.
In the end,
Who
they
is
might
not
still
a bad
win.
team,
You never
you
know.
know?
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Could go either way. We'll have to keep tuning in.
So, like I earlier mentioned, Trana feels as though the traitors are cornered now, and she is going to be coming for them at the round table. Where Karin says there are two types of people, one that's taking up oxygen and one that's barely breathing. And so she's kind of being like, come on, guys. There's a lot of people talking. There's a lot of people saying nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe looked at the people saying nothing. But I think all reason and rationale just like kind of goes out the window at that round table, and people just are like, my evidence makes sense to me. I'm gonna make it work.
It's fun. I need uncut roundtables. Production, if you are listening, release the web series. Let's see the uncut roundtables because
Well, I think that we
they
do
were
get a
fun.
longer version because it was about 20 minutes left in the episode when we got to the round table. So I'm thinking that maybe we get a little bit longer than the CTV cut.
Oh yeah, I think it was 50 minutes or so on Crave, but still, like I want the 2-hour roundtable just on its own. I want to see all the directions and like the witchcraft and like or witch hunt or whatever. Like I want to see that. It's entertaining.
Well, Corinne was here from the quiet ones, and Michael John speaks up first. So I guess he was considering himself to be a quiet one, and he basically lays his case for it to be Cedric. He was planning that one for a while because it was constructed. And Cedric has had a little bit of heat. But like Cedric just kind of like rolling his eyes, like, okay, great, okay, you think it's me, sure.
Yeah. But it wasn't a bad move, I thought, for Michael John because he's playing dumb a lot. He's acting like he doesn't really fully understand the game. He's starting to kind of act now like he's getting it a little bit more. And throwing Cedric's name out there is not the worst theory for him because he's got eyes on him, but not everybody's eyes. He's throwing out a name that could still be a traitor that other people are thinking. Like he's not just kind of shooting around aimlessly. And I didn't think this was a bad move for him.
No, he was sending a message and pointing a finger at somebody that was direct and that potentially could get some legs. So no, it definitely is something that he should be doing. Like he needs to be saying some names loudly. Gail points her finger over at Aaron because he checked the keys situation with his side eye.
Come on, Aaron, what are you doing?
What are you doing, Aaron? Aaron says, you will vote out a faithful if you vote me out. And I feel like it was so believable how he said it, but it wasn't with much conviction. But I think it was just like, just deflation, just like, man, like it's probably going to end up being me. And can't stop this train.
Like, again, we're getting ahead of it, but like him in the circle of truth was so good. I was not expecting it. Like, it was good. He's like, you're idiots. And I love that because as a television production, they are. Production, but you know what I mean? Like, as a produced TV show, these faithfuls are bad.
Now, Kira brings up Michael John, and I'm like, wow, she's bold. This is bold with a lot of conviction, which I would be like, red flag, like that she has piping up with so much vigor here. I would, and she saying things like, I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. I felt that this was the mistake that Dan did in, the US season, where he was basically like waiting to throw a fellow traitor under the bus by saying, like, I've been watching you this whole season and this is what I noticed about you. It's a very traitorous strategy, I would say. But nobody picked up on it.
See, I think it works for her. I think she almost redeemed herself because I think the last 2 episodes, she's been super emotional, super angry, really heated. And not that she wasn't emotional this episode, but I think this episode, she's doubling down on Michael John and it's making her seem more faithful. Like it didn't give red flags to me. For me, it was more of a like, she's got her eye on him. She really believes he's a traitor, but in a faithful way. And I think the difference between her and Dan is that people think she's a faithful, and people had already had him clocked.
Fair.
He was back up against the wall, had no other choice. And she's hunting Michael John, and that's just it, right? And maybe like when he does go, they don't think like, oh, well, how come she wasn't murdered? She was gunning so hard for him. Maybe that makes sense that she wasn't murdered because it would be too obvious for him to murder her. So I'm wondering, like, my gut was always saying that she was going to go before Michael John. I also didn't think we'd get 7 roundtables in without anybody going.
At this point, though, I don't even know.
It's so hard to
logically, one of them should have gone already.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even have like a gut feeling anymore because this is
madness.
Unprecedented. I thought that Michael should have gone like 3 roundtables ago, and now I don't know who would go next.
Chantele, if these 3 traitors make it to the friggin' fire of truth, I am gonna die. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, I can now. At this point, I can. Yes. At this point, I can.
How disappointing, though, for all the faithful to like just not get one.
Be better. Sorry.
Yeah,
because we have Nick here corroborating the Michael John situation here, right? So now this is the second person that's talking about like, well, Michael John, who doesn't speak up that much, but is waiting and to give all of his evidence, whatever, in front of everybody. Then Pacman also brings up Michael John again, and you know he's saying like, you know, I keep on bringing up his name and it doesn't seem to matter, and nobody cares about what his thoughts are and why he thinks certain things. And I think that the faithful should be listening to this. Like, why are we not listening to some of these people? And why are we so easy to listen to the people that have been loud and wrong?
So we touched on this a little bit earlier this afternoon. And like you and I were talking. Sorry, podcast people. This wasn't like earlier, you know, on this. But we touched on this a little bit earlier when we were talking about how like there's likely a lot of people there who their livelihood is, you know, social media and like being a presence. And, you know, a lot of people want that TV moment. So they're like, no, I'm right. I know what I'm talking about. And they're not really letting their minds open as much to the quieter people. Like, I think this is what Corinne was saying when she was coming to the table. She's saying, quiet people speak up. Maybe the loud ones should listen to the quiet people. And I think it's because the quiet people are making sense. But if you're talking and all I'm hearing is my own thoughts and your, you know, words are just going in one ear and out the other, that's it. Like, and I think that's what's so frustrating about these faithfuls being in the faithfuls is that they all have theories, or a lot of them have good theories, but nothing is being heard. And when they get to the table, it seems like it's just chaos and madness, right? So
Clinton says they might be faking that they're that bad at the game. It's probably like a master plan that our minds don't even understand because it's that good. I would love to say it's the master plan, but no, I just don't think that they're all that great actors that they could act with each other in this way, act in confessional this way, act at the round table this way. I just think that it would be too much work for them to be pretending that they're this bad.
Clinton, I think that you are just too faithful and you just want them to be having a master plan. But
I don't think so.
I also agree. I don't think that's the case.
MJ though does fire back at Kira, saying that she's a great dancer, like I guess dancing around you know, these theories and whatnot. But Kira is talking about how she brought the facts, and she kind of starts going back to the beard thing. And Michael John's like saying like, so just like the way that I act and the way that I am is you deciding that makes me a traitor. And so I thought he handled it pretty well, to be honest.
Really well in this, because usually he trips over his words. Like, he's usually like, you know, he doesn't always have the best ease at getting out what he's trying to say. Like, you can see that he's got something there and he's like trying to explain it, but he has a little bit of trouble like getting it out.
Articulating it. Yeah.
Yeah, and in this situation, I thought that he fired back at her so well.
They're going
I
back and forth, and
It
he
was
kind of shut her
good.
up.
He was quick and he made sense. The evidence that she was so sure about when she's like, you were preening your beard or whatever. And he's like, that's what I do. Like, it's my beard. I was touching my beard, like big freaking deal. That doesn't mean I'm a traitor. And I really think that she was lacking true evidence and he was exposing that. And I thought he did a really great job.
Yeah, I definitely agree that he did a pretty good job. I mean, they didn't show more of her. I feel like she must have brought up the fact that she thinks that he took the money. Like,
Yeah.
I think she must have given more evidence. Because it just really doesn't make sense that the only thing that she said was the beard thing, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then like she keeps on me like, well, let me speak, and then she doesn't really end up speaking.
Yeah.
So, ooh, Dreadful is with you here, hoping that Kira goes before Michael John.
Listen, I'm not hoping. Well, last week I was hoping because I thought it would just be really funny.
She played really badly last week, but
she was exactly. It's more of a gut thing. Like just for some reason since the beginning of the show, because she's doing so well, I just assumed that it was too good to be true. So,
but at this point though, I can't like I can't
wouldn't
read it.
surprise me if Netta left at the next round table.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like at this point now, I like it's just not going the way that I was even predicting. So any of them can go next or first, and I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
There's 0 sense and very minimum strategy going on.
So we get to the vote. Nick votes MJ, like he's basically said. Aaron votes for Cedric. Lori, Aaron. Lauren, Aaron. Pac-Man, MJ. Kira, Lori, which was a wild vote. And
I felt like we missed something. There was definitely way more at that round table that we just never heard because Kira going so hard for Michael John and then this stray bullet at Lori.
I think, sorry, I just thought of it right now.
Yeah.
Is that she probably realized that she wasn't going to have enough votes on Michael John.
Mm-hmm.
So she could go back to the conclave and say, like, you know, it was a ceasefire, like, whatever. Like, if she had voted for Michael John still, I don't think she would be able to say, like, hey, I'm not coming for you anymore.
Yeah. And I guess she couldn't go for Aaron because that would be a little suspicious. Like, why were you going for Michael John? And then you just changed it because all of the votes were going on Aaron. That's weird. So maybe she did like Lori as a, hey, listen, I'm also a little bit suspicious at you. But although didn't she vote for Lori in I can't remember now, but I thought that it was like she didn't really think Lori was a traitor. She just had to vote for her. Was that not the situation?
I don't remember. Is that what this episode? Oh, go ahead.
I also think, I might be remembering it wrong, but I do think that Kira wants Lori gone because I think that she knows that Lori and Netta are close. And I think Kira is playing the long, put this girl on Survivor. I do think she is playing the long game. And I think she's thinking, I need Michael John gone. I need, to recruit somebody else that can help me, but also somebody that I can throw under the bus. And I think she's thinking, I need to isolate Netta so that when the time comes, everybody's on my side and we can get her out.
Yeah, I definitely think that she's just planting a little bit of a seed here with the Lori vote. Trana votes for Aaron, Cedric for Aaron, MJ or Michael John for Cedric, Gail for Aaron, Kevin for Aaron, Netta for Aaron, meaning Aaron is going to be leaving the game, standing up to say that you are the worst faithfuls ever.
That made me happy. It was good. It was good.
Kevin was pissed at Trana, saying like, I did that for you.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. He voted out. He said that Aaron was his closest ally in the group. And he's going to vote out Aaron, his closest ally, even if he is a traitor. Do whatever the frig you're doing with Lauren, with Aaron. Like to have someone be your closest ally and then vote them out just because somebody else says, because you guys are going like vote for vote or whatever. You deserve to lose.
I'm wondering though if Kevin was thinking that Trana might be a traitor and was doing what he thought he is doing with Lauren, and is like, I'm voting Kevin out or Aaron out for you, and in the sense that
recruit me or
recruit me or whatever, or maybe he thought that yes, this is actually a traitor, and then you know what I mean? Like I think that he thought that Aaron had to actually be a traitor. and
Yeah.
he was doing something to benefit his game. And so knowing that she was wrong, it kind of makes it look like, okay, Trina actually probably is a faithful for
Yeah.
sure now, and he just messed up.
Yeah. Or she's a traitor and she's misleading me and getting
Well,
my
and
allies
in any
out.
case, I would think that Kevin would want to get Trina out next
Mhm.
because she's not helping his game really at all right now.
She's distracting. She's distracting for sure. Like Cedric's been quiet, Trina's distracting
So
for
Nick
sure.
is feeling unheard. Nobody listened
Mhm.
to him at the roundtable with the Michael John vote. We see Kevin and Michael John talking, and Michael John does kind of say to Kevin about, Kira, and it's weird that she's like coming to me with like the beard
I
preening
liked it.
thing. And I
I
was
liked
like,
it.
oh, like,
Look,
Kira, be
except for
careful.
Netta, except for Netta overhearing him, this was a good move.
So Netta and Kira have a quick talk, and she's like, don't leave him alone with anybody, which
Mhm.
I think is great.
Smart.
It's the Boston Rob strategy of babysitting people so
Mhm.
that they can't go and strategize about you.
It's genius. It's not
Kevin
working
thinks
well.
that Lauren is going to keep him safe, and I'm just like, Kevin, it's not Lauren. It's not Lauren.
Their dynamic is just TV gold.
I love it. I wish that they were like they're both single and interested in each
I
other, and like this was like
know.
a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type
It
situation
would be
here.
so good.
Trina is embarrassed, and she is using that product placement to pour herself a glass of Jackson Triggs wine. It was Jackson Triggs,
Mhm.
right? Wine.
Jacob's Creek.
Jacob's Treats.
My
Sorry.
God, come on. Right
Sorry.
advertising.
Sorry. No offense, but both are my least favorite wines out of Canada. Both. But Trina is embarrassed here.
Mhm.
She knows that she's a terrible faithful. She sucks at this game.
She says,
She's like,
"Don't
I
DM
know,
me."
don't DM her. She
Like,
says, don't.
and I feel like she's likely gotten a lot. Like, she could see the future. We talk about psychic abilities a lot. She was sat in that chair going, Twitter is going to blow up. Leave me alone. I'm loud and wrong, and
It was
just
very
leave me alone.
funny. I think she's like, okay, I need to take a step back here because I'm wrong. It's
She's
very
so much
funny.
fun. I enjoy watching her a lot.
So at the conclave, we see Pac-Man, or see them talking about, I think it was Netta brings up that, no, Kira brings up that Pac-Man said that you had been saying our names. We hadn't seen it. I wish they did a flashback. That would have been nice. But they're both like, we're good. I'm good. We're good. Like we came out of this both looking really good. Like, let's call it truce, basically.
But
Now,
it's
I
such
think
a
that
fake
MJ is
truce.
agreeing to it, but I don't think that Kira actually is. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's such a fake truce. Like, I think poor MJ, I think he's easily manipulated in this game because I think the girls are like, sure, Michael John, like, let's be a team again. And like, I think he's just going to keep getting, they're going to keep getting one over on him. And they're like, yeah, let's have a truce. And he's probably going to be like, yeah, okay, cool, truce. And then they're like, hey, Michael John's still a traitor. Let's get him out tonight.
So Netta wants Nick. She thinks that Nick would be the perfect person to murder here in the situation. But Nick has the shield, so he's not, up for discussion. But Kira is deflecting Nick, and so it's actually really good for Kira, I think, for him to have the shield, that she doesn't need to basically ruin her game to save her brother, because there's no real reason why she should keep Nick in the game. Right? He's very faithful. He's not very influential.
Yeah.
Like, he's gotta
He's not
go.
really helping anybody. Like, he's trying to help her, but he's also still Michael John's, like, one of his best friends. And he's saying Michael John's name, but barely. And even when he is saying it, nobody's listening to him. So, like, nobody thinks he's a traitor. Like, everybody's looking at him like the most faithful. So you gotta cut him.
So the three people on the button are Pac-Man, Lori, and Gail for this next murder. personally, I think that they're going to choose Lori for all the things that you stated before. Weakens Netta a little bit. Lori is somebody that is quite getting a little bit louder in her convictions and her theories. And if she lands it on somebody, like, I could see it getting traction at this point because people haven't been listening to her, but maybe they'll be like, okay, Lori, it's your turn. Let's go with your theory. And she's probably going to be like, let's go for the people that were in that challenge and let's take out some of the people that were the non-sinners. What's it called?
Saints.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's going to be Lori that they're going to take out. What about you?
I think they're going to take out Pac-Man. I think that Kara is wanting Lori soon. I think that she's setting it up so that Lori goes soon because she doesn't want Lori to be attached to Netta. But I think if they do Pac-Man, I think Michael John will just agree. I think that Michael John will look more guilty because Pac-Man's been gunning hard for him now. Pac-Man is like, I really think you're a traitor. And I think that that's likely what the two girls will agree on, to throw him under the bus, keep them looking more faithful. And then it also appeases Michael John. They can make him think that they're on his side by letting Pac-Man go. Where
So
like
at this point, hold on, how many votes will we have? So we're at the final 11. If they need only 6 to have the majority at the round table. And so it'd be Kira, potentially Netta, Pac-Man. Who else could they get right now? Do they have 3 more votes? Because Mike's gone. Mike would have been somebody that would have voted out Michael John.
It's hard to say. It's like they might be losing a vote with Pac-Man, but are they gaining more because they get out Pac-Man, right? Like if you get out somebody who's pointing the finger and now they start to be like,
and like everybody that's been pointing the finger at Michael John has been going home.
Exactly. So they can be like, hey, listen, I know it seems obvious. However, how about we just take the shot tonight? Like, I really think that these clues are adding up. This is a direction we haven't actually gone yet. Like, let's send him home. Let's see, whatever. Like, I feel like getting rid of Pac-Man can help them frame him more.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't necessarily know that it works, but I see them murdering him for those reasons. And then on the other side, it does appease Michael John. It makes him believe that they're on his side because they want Pac-Man gone, even though their reasons are malicious. And I think that if he doesn't go, they've kept everything like kosher with him and they've still got a good relationship.
I mean, if they allowed me to, I mean, I know that he's not super game savvy, but like if the 2 people that I'm working with allowed me to make a move that's worse for my game, I'd be so sus. But like, I know he's not necessarily recognizing it, but I'll be like,
well, because look at Gail too. Gail would also vote for him. Like Gail, he went to murder Gail.
It's not before actually.
Yeah. And because she was on the chopping block at one point but survived, she's going to vote for him. But that's also more evidence as to why he's a traitor, because Gail almost went home. Pac-Man's gone home. You know what I mean? Like Mike has gone home. Everybody who pointed their finger at Michael John is slowly being taken out, but not being
attempted, because Gail was attempted.
Exactly. So I really think that, like, I don't necessarily know that it works, but I think that's the move that is most likely to happen.
I could definitely see that happening for sure. I'm just thinking that like that maybe they're gonna want to do what's in his best interest, but I can also see them being like, let's allow him to sink his own ship.
Yeah, because they seem really gung-ho at the end of it, where they're like Netta before was not fully on board, but something has changed because now
I mean, the fact that he's saying her name, so she's pissed.
Yeah. So she's like ready to cut him. I think Kara, wants to weaken Netta, but she would rather have Michael John gone first.
I can see it. See it, but we'll see what actually ends up happening. At the end of the episode, Netta does think that the Traitors is a hard game, even if the Faithfuls are terrible at it. They suck at it, she said, actually.
They do.
They do suck at it.
It's not an easy game. I think no matter what role you play, traitor or faithful, no matter what cast you're given, it's always going to be a hard game and for different reasons. And it's just so much fun.
I think also too, I'm thinking about like if I were playing, I might
Mhm.
have a gut instinct as to who I think the traitor is, but that wouldn't be enough to get people to believe me or to vote with me. Just being like on your gut. Like I'm like, well, what else do we have here? Like
And your
breeding a
gut,
beard? Like
well, a lot of the time too, because this is your whole world, like you don't have your phone, all that. Like you're just in this manner with these people. These people now become your everything. This is your world. You're going to start liking some and not liking others. You're going to connect, and you're not going to believe that the people that you connect with are going to be the bad guys. And your gut check is out of whack there too. Like me and Donna spoke about it a lot too, because like she's psychic, she's a medium. And we talked a lot about why mediums do so poorly in this game. And this is when we were on the show, when I was sat down as a traitor, and she came out and told me, by the way, this is actually what I do. And I never thought to use it against her if I had my time back, but we've talked about that. But basically, she's telling me that this is what she does. And I had zero fear about it because my thought process was like, okay, fine in your everyday, but everything is heightened here to disguise. You know what I mean? Like you're
well,
going to be
and
feeling all kinds of emotions
nobody's
here,
gonna
and
go on your hunch.
it's going to be really hard to just go with that, So, although, well, I won't spoil our interview with Mike, but he said some interesting things that had me like, dude, you should have followed that thought,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All
So
right,
go
so
watch
our
that.
MVP is Kevin and Lauren. Do we have a name for them? I was saying they reminding me of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but is
Can we
there
call him Levin?
like giving them like a like a married name
Jennifer,
or like
yeah.
a
Um,
Levin?
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I like.
I want something better though.
Yeah, because they're just wrong. They're like Mr. Magoo in a way. But like,
Mr. and Mrs. Wrong is it's funny actually, or Mr. and
the
Mrs.
Wrongersons?
Never Right,
Can we call
not
them the
right.
Wrongersons? Yeah, not right. The not rights.
Mr. and Mrs. We'll workshop it unless you guys in the chat have any better ideas.
Yeah,
Mr.
help us. It's
and
late.
Mrs. Not Right.
Yeah, I like that. They're just such a fun duo.
All right, those are MVPs.
And it's to the point too now where like when Lauren says to Kevin about being a traitor, he just nods. He's just like, uh-huh. So great plan. Like,
So
it's
funny.
so fun.
I wonder how they how they feel watching it back, feeling like, oh my gosh, we're
I
so
can't wait to see it play out. That's
yeah.
gonna be fun.
Well, this was a good time. I mean, all these episodes have been a good time. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we say goodbye?
Go watch our interviews. They're not
I
out
haven't
yet,
watched it yet,
but
but
they
yes.
will be out. So actually, you know what? Like the one thing that I didn't really know a whole lot about YouTube, you need to be not just subscribed to the channel, but there's like a little bell on the channel, and you have to like click that bell. And what that does is it gives you a notification. So like every time Chantele goes live, I get a notification on my phone, and you go live often because these podcasts are recorded live and then uploaded after. So like if she goes live, like say we're talking about something that we didn't really pre-schedule or whatever, she could go live, you'll get a notification so that you don't miss it. So do
Ring the
that.
bell is really, because some people say like, oh, I don't get my notifications, and it's usually because the bell is not selected, and so you don't see everything. You might still see when I go live as a subscriber, but if you ring the bell, you should be notified anytime that, like, probably as soon as I make a stream, you'll get notified that the stream's starting in half an hour or whatever it is. So yes, subscribe, ring the bell,
do that, and then
like this
once you
video.
upload the interviews, go watch them.
Yes, I will
They're good.
upload them. Should I do them tonight? I think I can get them in tonight, or maybe I'll set it for tomorrow at like noon or something.
That could be my watch for tomorrow afternoon, because I was with you with Mike, but I couldn't make it to the Aaron interview, so I'm very curious as to how that went. I want to watch it.
Yay! Well, we'll see everybody
Thank you.
next week, and yeah, I guess that's it. Ciao, everybody. Thanks for everybody in the chat. You guys are awesome.